Live stream. It seems we are having a couple of things happen here that I am not sure why. Technology is my friend. Technology is my friend, as Aaron May Lewis says. Technology is my high maintenance friend. Dulcimer Crossing sponsors these Wednesday conversations to help equip us for our musicianship in all the different ways that we can do that. Today, our topic is power chords. These may be chords that you already know or you already play but don't know that you know. So here's what I want to focus on today. A power chord, we know that a chord, by definition, a triad needs three things. It needs a root or a tonic, it needs the third, and it needs the fifth, the immediate and the dominant. It needs these things in order for us to know what it is. The root is the name of the chord that we're playing. There is always a fifth that's a specific distance away. It's the interval that we hear first as children. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, bum, 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 bum. The first interval that children will sing is matching my pitch. And then if they're hearing something, they might do the octave, but they might not understand their range as well. So they're going to go to the fifth next. And that's why Twinkle, Twinkle is such a popular song for learning that, the 1 and the 5. The third is going to tell us what the quality of the chord is. Is it major or minor? But in power chords, we leave out the third. All we have is the 1 and the 5. So it feels very stable, but it also feels open. Some people call that primitive. In fact, classical Western rules for creating harmonies is you don't have parallel fifths moving, because that's gauche. You're just not supposed to do that. It turns out in shape note music, as one of the early American traditions, parallel fifths get used a lot. So it could be that they labeled it that way because they didn't want it to be like that kind of music. They wanted it to be this other kind of music. But the mountain dulcimer and the hammered dulcimer are both built this way. And what I want to do is talk about how we play them and why we play them and when they really work well. So let me get my mountain dulcimer up here. This is my first instrument. It's the one I built in 1980. It doesn't have any extra frets. There's no 6.5 because when I built it, no one said anything about a 6.5 fret. There were people who were doing it, but I didn't know who they were. It's been my life with the dulcimer. Stuff happens. I didn't know it was going to happen. There's certainly no 1.5. That happened way, way later. So all the extra frets, which are now and in chromatic instruments, those are things that just didn't exist when I was, or not widely, when I was first learning. So one of the beautiful things about power chord, I'm tuned right now to D, A, which is a power chord. I've got a 1, I've got a 5, and then I've got the octave. One of the reasons people will talk about dulcimers with bagpipes is because that's the drones. These are the drones that bagpipes use, 1s and 5s. The fireside pipes that I have and play have 1 and 5s, a 1 and then 2 5s. The Keelmore or the big Highland pipes will have 1, and then the other ones are octaves of the 1. And what that means is as I play up and down playing bar chords, whatever note is on the bottom string, the low bass string, or the high string, the melody string or strings, is the name of whatever I'm playing. So I would call this a power chord E, or the designation people use is an E5 to say we don't have a third here. Don't look for a third. You're not going to find it. We're just doing the 1s and the 5s. Now, why is that helpful? because it lets me have available to me ways to join in with what other people are doing. If I'm playing DAD, right now we don't know if this is a minor or a major chord. So in order to play in D minor, I don't need to do anything different. In order to play in D major, that's it. Same thing with E, same thing with F sharp, same thing with G, and A and B and C and D, all the way up the fretboard. When I'm playing a bar chord that goes all the way across, I can use 3 fingers like this. I can use 1 finger like that. I've seen people karate chop it, where they use their pinky all the way across and let the rest of their hand way on there to keep it from moving. But what it does is giving me access to, doesn't matter where I am, I can play the major or the minor chord. I'm playing a partial chord. Yep, that's true, because an E5 is a anything with a 5 after it is a partial chord. I don't have the full 3 notes I need to tell me what's the quality of the chord. That means this is versatile. It's nimble. It can serve more than one purpose with one fingering. Now, there's another thing that's available, and let's see if I can get this up here. I was trying a minute ago, and I was being thwarted. And let's see if the gurus of the internet are helping today. It doesn't appear that they are. So, well, that's looking more promising. The little blue ball is spinning faster. You know how that is. I've got a whole series. Yes, here it is. I want to share it with you. That's called Classic Rock Licks to Teach the Mountain Dulcimer. And here what we're looking at is the introduction. I'm looking at the way the fretboard is laid out and how everything we're doing here can play a lot of rock music. Now, why would I say anything about that? Because rock music is built on a lot of power chords. So one of the examples here is this one. The way the frets are laid out, if I start anywhere, if I start on the first fret, the second fret, the 4th fret, or the 5th fret, I can play that first minor third interval. The difference here, if I start at 1, I don't get the half step that I need, the flat 5. But if I start at the 2nd fret, it gives me F sharp, A, B, F sharp, A, C, natural, B. That's that interval I need for the song Smoke in the Water by Deep Purple. Now, before we get any further, I want to show you how this works in the hammer dulcimer. Remember the interval I said we were using? We're using a 5th interval. Well, it turns out the American hammer dulcimer, which is not the only way these instruments are built, by the way, but it is laid out in a 5th tune pattern. Across the bridge, between the bridges. Unless you're in a Michigan tuning or you're playing a Bill Webster instrument, which has an octave bass, you still have 5th tunes across the treble bridge, but not between the 2 bridges. The vast majority of the ones you're going to run into in the United States and Canada and much of the Western world are going to be tuned like this. There are other tunings in other cultures when the instrument has other names. But here's what happens. I've started on an F sharp. I'm going to do that here. Here's my F sharp. This is my low D. If I had a 16, 15, that's where this would be. I can do the same thing playing F sharp, C sharp. That's that 1-5 relationship I had at the 2nd fret on the mountain dulcimer. And if I skip, Kamala Akakpo was teaching a couple classes on the German Hochbrett at the Hochbrett Festival in Germany over the weekend. I got up. I went to bed early, got up so I could take my classes at that festival, starting at 1 a.m. my time. Quite surreal, but wonderful. Very wonderful. But because of the way the dulcimer is laid out, when I go from an unmarked course to an unmarked course, I'm skipping over this one. That one's a minor third because anytime I'm in an unmarked course going to a marked course, I get a half step. Now I'm passing that. I got 1.5 steps. There's one whole step right there. Now here's a half step. Unmarked, 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 marked, unmarked. I'm doing it in F sharp now, but I can do it in C sharp. I could do it in F sharp, an octave higher. I could do it in B. I could do it in B here. I could do it in E. As long as the E I'm starting with is just one course away from the marked course. Now I'm going to pause for just a minute because we learned last week that Sam Rosetta, who was a beloved innovator and explorer on the hammer dulcimer, we learned last week that he was very ill and very close to death, and he passed on to the other side yesterday. And the reason I'm calling attention to that with gratitude is, see these marked courses on the bridge? Sam is the one who came up with that. See how vertical this treble bridge is? Sam's the one that came up with that. A lot of other builders build this way now, but originally he did that by creating an irregular trapezoid instead of this being a regular trapezoid and having the bridges go like this so that you're playing a little out of the side and a little this way. He irregularized the trapezoid so that this bridge could be straight up and down, which adds for ease of playing and several other things. There are a lot of other, he created the carbon fiber instruments. This is a Sam Rosetta design that he leased to or licensed to Dusty Strings. And he shared everything he knew with Nick Blanton, who is still in Shepherdstown, West Virginia, and building. And my smaller instrument is one of the Nick Blanton built and Sam Rosetta voiced instruments. So thank you, Sam, and rest in peace. So the way the instrument is laid out gives us the opportunity to play these power chords. It lets us play some music that we might not have thought we could play because our instruments are built for it already. What are the genres of music where power chords get used a lot? Well, I already mentioned rock. Punk is another one. And you can tell when you're watching guitar players, if they only play, I'm only playing the bottom 3 strings. Hello, I love you, won't you tell me your name? I'm not hearing any sweetness. I'm not hearing minor. Hello, I'm not hearing a brightness. I'm just hearing the ones and the fives. That's the power chord. And those kind of intervals were the basis for punk and grunge and rock. And you can play blues. But there's another place that you might not think about it so much, which is really interesting. We're going to go and play with our friends, the Celts. Any strummed instrument in a Celtic ensemble is playing generally power chords, and they're giving that kind of open space in which the melodies of what's going on can be played. Now, I did not have to retune to play an E Dorian tune like a Swallowtail Jig, which is what I was just playing. All I did was use power chords, E minor, or the chords would have been E minor and D and A, because it's a Dorian tune. But I didn't have to retune or put a capo on or anything. I just used my finger. And that is already the expected way that things are going to be played in that genre. Now, on the hammer dulcimer, this can work. This can work the same way. Now, that's the Swallowtail Jig is an example of a double jig where the melody is playing almost every beat in the measure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you'll notice I wasn't playing. So the other thing power chords can do is provide a steady accompaniment. So I'm playing the pulses of a double jig, and it gives a foundation, but it leaves room for the melody to go floating around. And so it turns out Celtic music is another musical genre and style for which power chords are very useful. And then I started at the very beginning to say that power chords are also, I didn't highlight it, that's why we're doing it now. Power chords are also very useful. If you don't know if a chord's major or minor, you can always play a power chord, and it lets you do what I call the first step in Hippocratic dulcimer playing: do no harm. If you don't know if it's major or minor, play a power chord, because you won't conflict. Because if the chord that everybody else is playing is major and you play the minor, it's going to be some tension because it's two different versions of what the third is doing. So do no harm, play power chords. and that'll be something that can be very useful for you. And let's see, two things here. Yes, I did see that just this morning, Talon. Sister Margaret Mary, who taught many children in she in Louisville, Kentucky, Cincinnati area. She also died yesterday. And I did not know, I did know Sam, but I did not know her personally, only from her social media sharings of what she did with Dulcimer and with children. So more and more of us are reaching the end of this side of our journey, and that creates sadness for us, but it also gives us an opportunity to be grateful, and to be grateful in the hearing of the people we're grateful for. So we can let them know how valuable they are to us. And Jim, you have said sometimes seeing how the chord gets designated, it'll say G5 is one way. You'll also see your example here is G no 3 or no third. I mean, obviously it's easier if you're writing this out by hand. The shorthand is going to be the one you're going to go for eventually, because you don't want to write no third all the time. But you're right. It comes up, it gets talked about in some different ways. So we have power chords built into our mountain dulcimers. We have power chords built into our hammer dulcimers. And we can use these as survival tools when we're in a jam session, and or we can use them to play music which are built on those chord structures. So it's a useful thing to have. And when we can feel overwhelmed with all the possibilities that are available out there to us, knowing that there is this go-to way that we can jump right in. It's like having the water wings on your arms when you jump in the pool. I've never worn those because those were invented after I was already a swimmer. But our kids certainly used them until they were swimmers and they didn't need them. But the reality is there are some things that you use to survive to begin with, and they can become fun things. And you can use them for everything you're doing. Now, I'd like to ask and see if you are able to, if you're viewing this on Facebook, which most of you are, if you're able to look at last week's video, the 10-20-21 Diatonic Chords Revisited, and I added the handout that I promised, but I was delayed in adding. But I added that handout in the chat, in the comments section below. And I just want to be certain when I click on it, I'm already logged into where I put it, but it looks like it's available for me to download right away. And I want to make sure that that's the case for you. So if you could try that and let me know, that's the way that you can access that. The business pages on Facebook don't behave the same way that personal pages do, or personal profiles do. So I can't just add a PDF to this the way that I thought I could. Oh, wait. Maybe that's what I need to do. Let's do. I'll save it as a ping and add it that way. Everything's taking a little longer today. There we go. Now we're going to save you as a ping. And let me go over there. Add a photo. Okay, so there's a link to download a PDF that also is showing up as of graphic file. So just if you have a problem with that, please let me know about it. Yay! Thanks, Jamie. I'm glad to have confirmation that sometimes the things I'm trying to do actually work the way they were designed to, or I figured out that they were designed to. So that's our topic today, power chords. And I hope that you feel power in your bones when you play these. But I also hope it unlocks some things for you. Yes, excellent. Thanks, Talon. Yes, it is. Like I was saying early, my friend, technology is my friend. This is Aaron May Lewis's mantra. Technology is my friend. Technology is my friend. Technology is my high maintenance friend. But it is amazing what we're able to do. This episode will be archived here on Facebook. It'll also be archived in the past events on the Dulcimer Crossing page, and on our YouTube channel as well. And on our YouTube channel, let's just make sure that that's there now before I tell you that. We were able to host at the Far West Folk Alliance. Let's see. I think it might still be unlisted. I think we have to look at that video and make it available. But we hosted a Dulcimer private guerrilla showcase for the Far West Folk Alliance 2 Fridays ago, and had some wonderful performances that then they said we could share after the Folk Alliance was over. So we'll make those available too. But that's it for today. As always, if you have topics or ideas or questions, oh, you're welcome, Joan. Please write to me at steve@dulcimercrossing.com. And I will look forward to seeing you at another time. That's it. Keep hammering and picking.